Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Network Hour podcast. It's Friday, and I get excited when it's Friday. The sun seemed to be shining outside, so that's a good thing, but it's still cold. We're still waiting for that first day of spring where we can go outside and just let our hair down. But I want to start by saying the reward is greater than the risk of putting yourself out there. So try to put yourself out there today. Do something new and do something you've never done before, but be safe and wear your mask. So, on today's episode of the Network Hour podcast, we are going to talk about how to get out of your own way. And we have a special speaker with us in celebration of Women's History Month, a phenomenal woman, powerful, strong, all of those things. And her name is Rasheeda Frazier. She is the CEO and founder of Empowering Greatness Inc. She's a big business organization specialist. She's a coach. She's my coach. She's a strategist and multi-preneur, which means that she owns more than one businesses, and we're going to get into that. And we want to welcome Rasheeda Frazier to the podcast. Welcome, Rasheeda.
Hi, Molly. Thank you for having me.
Yes, it is great to have you here. So, after we've gotten all that introduction out of the way, that was a long introduction, I know. I'm just going to ask you to share with our listeners today. I always have all my guests share a little bit about networking and their story, their relationship with networking. So, tell us a little bit about your networking story and your relationship with networking.
Oh, I think my relationship with networking started probably when I was a kid because I was always the one talking. I was never scared to just put myself out there and say, hello, how are you? I am. I always had an opinion. I spoke up. I stepped into a room and I made people talk to me.
Hmm.
So I know from teenage years on up. I think that was kind of my first introduction to just kind of getting out there and navigating the world and finding resources and people who could help me along my journey. But from a professional standpoint, uh, I think that just carried over because I always had a knack and an ability to be around the right people at the right time and saying the right things.
Hmm.
I made sure that I kept up with everybody and anybody that I met even once, especially if they had a good energy about them or we just had a good conversation and I found out what they needed to do and what they didn't need to do. So that was really, really good to kind of just pull me along because what would happen is I would remember someone. I would make a phone call and I would say, hey, I heard something that might be of interest to you. And then we would just move forward from there. And then they would remember me and go, I know this person named Rashida. You should really talk to them. And it became this back and forth between associates, between friends, between fellow entrepreneurs, just people I met in random circles, on purpose circles. And that's how it went. And I also did a lot of networking pre COVID. So I was always at an event, always at a networking party, always going to hear something new, whether it was in my field or not in my field, and really just taking it from that standpoint. And that was always networking for me. Just always kind of staying in that energy and staying in that lane.
Great. It's interesting that you talk about kids because kids, they are not afraid to
Yeah,
walk up to another kid that they don't know anything about, and all of a sudden they become best friends in that instant.
that's
So
right.
I think we as adults need to get that bravery up. We need to be like kids and just think about it as it being an introduction instead of getting in our heads and being all, oh my God, what is going on. So let's talk a little bit. Let's give us a little background, a little bit about your story and not going too deep into stuff that you don't want to tell us, but
Gotcha.
give us a little background of who Rasheeda is.
Oh, Rasheeda is this spunky, very alive individual that doesn't take no for an answer. Um, my journey into life was always a very interesting one. I'm never ashamed to tell people I've been on my own since I was 13. I decided that I was going to pack my bags and I wanted to be a grown up. And my mother, who and my father, they loved me, they supported me, and they kind of let me. There's a backstory to that, but yeah, I did it and I stepped out and I never went back. So it was just always something in me that needed to be out there kind of doing my own thing.
Mhm.
Um, so I think that drove me in a lot of ways because I had to have an entrepreneur spirit from very early on because I had
Mhm.
to work, I had to go to school at the same time, I had to take care of myself, I had to figure out ways to do this, and I did. And I think that no, I don't think I know that kind of it drove me into what I'm doing now, um, because through my life I always took care of people, I always helped people, I always figured out a way to lift somebody up. I was the one who was always for the underdog. So if you mess with the underdog, you mess with me because I didn't think that was fair. I didn't think that was right. And that really, just that energy from teenagehood, young adulthood, really spilled over into life as I began to really look at the fact that I always had this amazing energy and I was able to always push through whatever challenges or adversity came through life. And no matter how, if I fell, I always got back up. But I also noticed that a lot of people around me didn't have that, and they didn't have that energy, and they needed a hand to pull them up sometimes, or else they would stay down.
Mhm.
So that kind of brought me into the realm of volunteering, volunteering in high schools, volunteering, helping people, young adults and high school teens with college prep. And, one day I met someone who said, I'm not going to college. And I said, what do you mean? I said, what are you going to do? He said, I'm going to start my own business. And I said, okay, do you know how?
Mhm.
And they were like, no, but I know I'm going to do it. And I saw in that person me, because I didn't know a lot of things, but I knew I was going to do whatever I said I was going to do. And when I said it, I was very matter of fact about it. And I did it. And if for whatever the reason it didn't happen, I'd figure out a way to make it better so I can still do it. So it may not have been the original thought, but I still never gave up on a lot of things. So just through all of my volunteer efforts came the thought one day as I was sitting down with one of my really good friends. I had already started one business, and I kept saying, I keep getting these people, whether they're teenagers, young adults, whether they already have a business and they lack structure, they lack organization, they lack basic know-how on how to get from one step to the next in their lives, in their business. And I said, it's bothersome because these are all people within our community. I said, and we just had this conversation. I said, we need to empower them. We need to uplift them. They need to know. Not everybody's going to be a me. They're not going to sit in the library for hours. They're not going to reach out and find mentors. They're not going to do these things, but it's only because they don't know how. And he said, well, you've been doing this and helping people like this for so long, start a business. I was like, oh, I already have a business, but I could start another one. Like, okay. I said, but what would I call it? I said, so I started coming up with these names and they all just sounded so crazy. And I didn't like any of them. And he said to me, well, you empower people all the time, since I've known you. And he's known me since I was 12 years old, one of my very best friends, good brother. And he said, and you always about greatness, always pulling it out of people because you feel like everybody should feel like they're at their top. He said, so call it empowering greatness. And I,
Wow.
oh, that makes sense. So I looked it up, on in the directory, made sure, it wasn't taken. I said, that
Hmm.
sounds too easy. And the New York State Business Directory said, no, it's free. You can have it. And I incorporated my business that day.
So you worked in corporate, correct? Did you work for companies?
I
Uh,
did
were you were
for a
you
long time.
because you said you've always had that entrepreneurial spirit. So is it safe to say while you were working in corporate, you did not have that 100% dedication because you know your purpose was somewhere else?
Um, yes and no. Yes, because the thought was always there. So I was always working on something when I got off of work. But no, I never go into a situation and not give 100%.
Hmm.
So, 18 years in healthcare, before that, finance, before that, education. I worked the gambit. My resume is long, and I always gave 100% to each one.
Okay, because there might be listeners, there might be people who are thinking, okay, I'm in this job, I'm thinking about entrepreneurship. I want to leave, but I still have to do this job. And you're saying it's important to, even though you want to go over here, it's still important for you to maintain that level of professionalism and also do your work to the
Absolutely.
best of your ability, even though you're looking for a higher goal or to do something else.
Absolutely. You don't burn your bridges. You don't do that. Entrepreneurship is not something you wake up, have an idea, and poof, I'm an entrepreneur. It happens. It takes time, it takes research, it takes a shift in your mindset and your ability to realize that I need to now shift. And shifting doesn't come overnight, it's a new habit.
Hmm.
You may have the energy, you may have the thought, but what are you going to do? How are you going to do it? How is it going to impact your work life balance? Do you have children? Do you have enough money where you can just quit your job and
Hmm.
say, I'm just going to quit my job and focus on this and figure it out as I go? No, the journey is long.
Hmm.
I started my journey in terms of actually putting it down on paper and really starting to 2012. I didn't enter into this full time until 2019.
It takes time.
It takes time. I have 3 children. I had to make sure, and I was taken care of. I had to make sure that they were going to be okay. Two of them were, getting ready for college. And although I knew I'm going to be an entrepreneur, I also knew there was a time for me to be able to do it.
Hmm.
So I didn't stop my dream, I didn't stop my goal, but I had to be very strategic about how I did it, you know, where my free time was placed, how I needed to focus.
Yeah. I remember going to an event and this lady was speaking. I can't recall her name now, but she was talking about her business and what she does and all of that stuff. And I was sitting there and I was like, this is exactly the trajectory I want to go. This is exactly what I want to do. So after she finished the discussion and stuff, I went up to her and I spoke to her and I'm like, how did you get there? How long did it take for you to get there? Because I'm only a year in and I'm already frustrated and I'm already like, what am I doing? And she was like, it took me about a little over 5 years to get where I am.
Yeah.
And she's like, you just have to keep at it and really know what your goal is and keep working at it. And when she said that to me, it was almost like a light bulb went off in my head, and I was like, okay, so I'm not crazy.
No, you're not.
People went through this. So it's important for people that are listening to know that you don't just wake up and be an entrepreneur and be a business owner. It takes work and it takes
It
time.
time, it takes dedication, it takes commitment, it takes passion. You
Mm-hmm.
have to have a true desire for what it is that you want to do. It takes perseverance, those little wins that just keep happening back to back to back.
Mm-hmm.
It takes focus. You have to be able to see what's coming down the pike or see your end goal and not worry about how you're going to get there, but just keep seeing your end goal. That's
Mm-hmm.
what I did. I knew what I wanted. I wrote it down. I had vision boards. I meditated on it. It was something very consistent, very focused. And I didn't know how I was going to get there or how long it was going to take, but I knew I was going to do it. And I
Mm-hmm.
never gave up on that, no matter. And I had a lot of people, who some people knew what I was doing, some people didn't. Some people kind of had an idea that I was into some things, but not quite what I used to get a lot of naysayers. And it's like, you just need to focus on this and you don't have the strength in this area. I don't know why you do this. And I used to just smile at them. I used to go, okay. And I never let any of that get me down. I never let it stop me. I never let it impede any of the energy and passion and commitment I had for what I knew I wanted to do. And that was help people in some way, shape, fashion, and form. That
Yeah.
was to teach. That was to give access to knowledge. That was to awaken something within them that they could not see.
Yeah.
And I knew I wanted to do it with youth. I knew I wanted to do it with women. And I knew I wanted to do it just across the board in the minority community, men.
Yeah.
So it really encompassed that because as I began to look out into the world of business and into the world of work, the people I was around for many, many years. And I got to really talking to a lot of these professionals, and some of them were dedicated to their, 9 to 5 careers. This is what they wanted to do, years of school. But a lot of them had other things that they were doing. And a lot of my greatest mentors told me, never put all your eggs in one basket. If you have a dream and you have a goal, then figure out a way to make it manifest. And
Mm.
you may have to, you know, go a route you don't want to go in the interim until you can get there. But that doesn't mean you're not going to get there. It's part of the journey.
Yeah, exactly. So that was going to be my next question because you talk about helping people. You talk about it started out with you wanting to help the youth, but you're also a business coach. So
Mhm.
why business coaching? Why did you get into that?
Actually, it started out as a business consultant.
Hmm.
So I got into that because I'm an organization junkie. I like structure. I like foundation. I like that to be very strong. And my father always taught me that if your knowledge base, your foundation is organizationally sound and strong, you will always get to the next level. But you have to be standing on something firm. And I started meeting a lot of small businesses within the Black community that were disorganized. Great product, great service, great passion, but they were disorganized. And because I had a knack for that, I understood business. It was just something that was a passion of mine, things I read up on. I was always taking some kind of free business course on Udemy or Coursera or, something like that. And that was just my passion. Some people read books on butterflies. I read books on business,
Yeah.
and that's really how it started. I would go in and I would consult small businesses within my community. I literally started in my immediate community. I would sit down, we would talk, and I would begin to dissect who these people were and how they function so that I can help that business function where they could be successful. So I can fix their systems to be able to organize them in a way where it made sense to them. Didn't matter if it didn't make sense to anybody else. That system needed to make sense to them so that they can thrive in it, so that it would be their level of organization and it would allow them to push forward.
Hmm.
And then that's kind of when coaching kind of came into play because one of the things I realized was that a lot of people had a mindset issue around their relationship with money, about their relationship with paperwork, around their relationship with structure. I met a lot of people who had a phobia and a fear for organization, and so you got to kind of coach those people and help them change that mindset and be able to see how that is going to be the foundation of where you need to go.
Mhm.
And that's kind of how it mixed and mingled and intertwined. So it really started off as I was a business consultant. I would go in, I would fix systems and make recommendations, and then it turned into coaching in addition to the consulting. So it's a long list of things that I do, and I don't have to do it with everyone, but I do have to do it with a lot.
So I imagine from your coaching and your consulting that you picked up on a lot of things and you've seen a lot of things, especially in the minority community. And my father used to have a saying where knowledge is very important, and even the Bible say too. There's a Bible verse where it says, "My people perish for a lack of knowledge." Right. So talk about some of the challenges, and also talk about some of the mistakes that even a lot of minority businesses make, that could really jeopardize their business and what they're trying to do.
Um, a lot of it is what they think they know about. A lot of the mistakes happen because they don't know. They don't know the steps that they need to take. A lot of it also happens because they were never put into a position to understand the mistakes that could come up. We don't, within our communities, we don't see a lot of Black businesses. We barely see them. And the businesses that we do see, they're not mentoring us or coaching us. They're mentoring their families and coaching their families. It's their families that work in the stores, in the corner stores, and the laundromats, and the grocery stores. We don't see that. We're consumers in terms of the structure of society. So when you do have that, and you get someone who has that spirit, it's pure energy that they're going off of. And unless they get a really good mentor or somebody who believes in who they are, a lot of mistakes that begin to happen, from my perspective, happen for lack of knowledge. They are taught to focus on their product and their service, but they forget that there is a whole business aspect underneath what that looks like. They're not taught proper financial um, sufficiency in their personal, so they end up not really understanding what they need to do in terms of their business
Hmm.
finance. And it's no fault of theirs. Um, to me, it's no fault of theirs. It's lack of access to right information. It's not something that's taught in schools. It's not. In our communities, in our schools, we're taught to get a trade, or we're taught that we're going to go to college, or we're just going to get a job.
Hmm.
And you have those outliers that have this energy that they want to get out here and do something different, and they try and they try, and some are actually very successful, and we thank God for that. But there's a lot who aren't, and it simply, to me, is lack of knowledge, know-how, and lack of enough exposure. If you don't have exposure to something, how are you going to know how to do it? How are you going to know how to frame your mindset around it?
Hmm.
So yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, guys, we're talking to Rasheeda Frazier, and this is the Network Hour. We're talking about how to get out of your own way. And so far, we've learned that you have to seek out knowledge and understanding and be able to navigate your way that way. So, we're going to get into more here. And another question I wanted to ask is, a lot of women are pivoting now. A lot of women are starting new businesses since the pandemic. And what are some of the advice that you would give to these women to get out of their own way? Because a lot of us might have kids, we might have the household to tend to. There's a million and one different things that's going to occupy our time, and on top of us trying to pivot, upskilling our careers, do a new business, become an entrepreneur, all of that stuff.
How do you get out of your way? To me, the first thing that I would tell them is take a step back, sit down, and put your life on paper. You can't see it if it's in your head and it stays there because things begin to flow in and cloud your vision. So start to write it down. Start with a basic calendar. Start with what your day looks like. How are you going to incorporate all of this? Start looking at where your resources are. Where's your help? Are you a single mom? Do you have a husband? Do you have a significant other who is just willing to help back your vision? And even if you're by yourself with no children, it really doesn't matter what you have. Life is always going to happen. It's life. Adversity is always going to be there. It just is. There are always going to be obstacles and challenges to what it is that you're trying to do. That's par for the course. How you get out of your own way is you begin to change your mindset around those impediments. Oh, you know how I got out of my way? I sat down. Let me tell you, I was taking care of my mother, who was very ill, up until her last breath, and I had no regrets. I was doing that full time while working full time while taking care of three children full time, wanting to go back to school and wanting to start my businesses. And during that journey, I also went back to school and I was still doing everything else. But what I did in order to be able to tell myself that I can do it was, well, I've been doing it all along anyway. Mindset.
Yeah.
I sat down. I said, what would school look like? What would running these businesses and really starting it look like? Could I do it full time and do everything else full time? I had to be very realistic with what was in front of me. And that's what I think a lot of people don't do or are afraid to do. I also had to develop the word no. No is an extremely powerful word.
It's hard though.
Talking about women take on the brunt of the responsibility in the home in terms of the child rearing and different things. Um, no slight on the brothers who are in the home, is just statistical data. We're dealing with the children more. We're working, we're cooking, we're cleaning. 9 times out of 10, we're also helping to take care of, parents, whether it's our spouse's parents, our parents, somebody, great auntie, grandma. It just kind of is, especially within our communities. And I had to develop the word no, because I used to always say yes, yes, yes. And I realized I was running myself into the ground. I didn't pay enough attention to me. If you want to pivot and do the things that you need to do, the first thing you need to do is make sure that you understand that you're important to the whole equation. So if you don't begin to say no and start siphoning off your energy, and there are things, because we tend to be givers and caretakers, but sometimes we're enabling a bad habit where I really don't have to go over here to cook you meals for the whole week. You can get up and cook your own meals. I understand you're not feeling well, but if I push you to move, you may be able to develop a new habit because now you're moving as opposed to just relying on someone else, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
or rearranging the schedule. I can't come over every day. I can come over 2 days a week and I can stockpile food in the refrigerator for you, mom. Okay. Depending on the age of your children, guess what? I need 2 hours Go watch a TV program just for those 2 hours. Go read a book. Money is off limits because you need to have dedicated time to be able to focus.
Yeah.
And if they're babies, I understand. But that's where you start calling your aunties, your sister friends. You have to, people are always scared. It's like, oh, they're not going to help me. You don't know if you don't open your mouth and ask.
Yeah.
You have your husband or your significant other. Guess what? Honey, I'm really thinking about starting this business. I'm really thinking about dedicating some time to this. I'm passionate about it. I need help. And if you're just one of those people who have absolutely nobody in their lives at all, which I cannot imagine that that is the case because that's usually a mindset piece when you think you are all alone,
Mhm.
then I implore you to really sit down and organize yourself in your time. I implore you, if you really don't have anybody within your circle, start reaching out to mentors. You got a bunch of free ones online that will talk to you about business. They have some that you're going to have to pay, and they'll give you more one to one, intimate, and real help that you need as opposed to some of the general ones that are out there that are free.
Mhm.
And just start reaching out and connecting and understanding that anything that you do is an investment in yourself, is in your passion and in your vision. Um, and then make sure it's connected to your why. If you're going to get out of your own way, you have to have a reason why you're doing what you're doing. And that's going to allow you to take that step back and look at your life and figure out, I don't care if it's an hour a day. What am I going to do to make this a reality until I can get more time to make this more of a reality?
Mhm.
And I really think that that's where a lot of people they lack, because it really is a mindset about your life. It's the attitude that you embody about who you are, the help that you have, the help that you can seek. It's a lot of people walking around in our communities thinking, oh, my people is not going to support me. You put that energy out, that's the energy you're going to get back.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I had a lot of people tell me I was crazy with the stuff I was doing, and I looked at them and I smiled. And next, so this is what I'm doing.
Oh my gosh.
And I was so sure about that I was going to figure this out that I wouldn't take no for an answer. And I don't care how many times I got redirected, I looked at those redirections as I was going in the wrong direction. So I needed to be redirected so that I can get back on the right path. I didn't take it as an obstacle. Attitude.
Yeah.
How do you see the situation? What is your attitude about your life, about your goals, about why it is you want to pivot and do the things that you want to do? So if you come out the gate negative and you come out the gate with self-doubt, that's what's going to permeate and what's going to ride through. So you have to really learn to break through that, whether you're standing with 100 people behind you or one. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah. Mentorship and coaching is so important,
It
and
really
it's not about them telling you things that you already know, because there's a lot of people out there with a lot of already knows, and they're not getting anywhere. The mentor is there to hold you accountable and make sure that you get to your goals that you said you want to achieve. But also talk about how building that tribe and having those positive influences and those positive people around you is so important. I read a African proverb last week, and it really stuck with me. And it says, if you want to go at it alone, you won't go far, or something like that. But if you want to go far, go with others. So, how important it is to have that tribe, and do you have a tribe that you count on, that pour into you on a daily or on a weekly basis to
I've
just make
got
sure that
an
you're there?
enormous tribe, and that tribe has been built over time. It didn't start out as a big tribe. Um, it started out with me. I was the first member of my tribe, and I own that. When you're confident in who you are, that's the beginning step. You can't take no's to what it is that you want to do as I shouldn't be doing it. Self sabotage, self doubt, it already messes up your mind. So I was the first member of my tribe, and I'm still the most strongest one in my tribe where I am concerned. But I've got some powerhouses that I have um, developed and picked up along the way in the terms of, and it come in so many forms. My best friends, people I went to junior high school with, people I went to high school with, people I went to college with, my spiritual community, my sisters. My mom and my dad were the first members of my tribe.
Yeah.
I went out on my own, but they were there. I would call them, they were there. No matter what, they were there. Before my mother passed away, she said, it's time to focus on you 100%. You've done it already for everyone else. Do it for you now. And I know she's still there as part of my tribe, pushing me along the mornings when I don't want to get out of my bed. Tribe is important, but you cannot think that there is nobody. Who is your best friend? Everybody has a best friend, male or female. Somebody that is going to sit down and kind of tell you, okay, girl, that sounds crazy, but if that's what you really want to do, let's go. What do I need to do to help you? And if you don't have that, find one. Step out of your comfort zone, step out of your box. Start networking. Start opening your mouth. Start putting yourself out there. Start reading. Start learning how some of these people who are in business did it. Some people, I mean, you see them and you see they have money now, but their beginning story is not pretty. And if you really do the due diligence and the research, you'll see white, black, Chinese, indifferent. It really doesn't matter. Some of these people didn't have no backing, but they had a passion. And that passion is what attracted their tribe to them. Every time I open my mouth in a public space, in a networking space, in a space that says, I need, I want, I'm attracting that energy to me. And yeah, you have to shift through. You got some people who shouldn't really be in your tribe, and that's okay. Because you're going to learn something from those people anyway. And they're going to teach you how to pivot so that you can attract something better. Everything is a learning experience, and it starts with you. So when you're looking to solidify your tribe, and what are you doing to attract people to you? How are you speaking to people? What is your mindset? What is your energy? Are you helpful? You have to, when you're in business, when you're pivoting, when you need help, it has to be a win-win. So what are you doing for someone that someone would want to be your champion when you're not in the room? That's how that works. That's how building
Exactly.
a tribe works. It's not just you sitting down on the side and I'm quiet and I don't say anything and I've got all these amazing thoughts in my head and things I want to do, but I don't let them out. I don't ask for help. And I get stuck in my own way because I don't know how to open my heart. I don't know how to, not live in fear of the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, and the what ifs. The biggest thing that blocks people from getting out of their own way is fear of their own success
Wow.
because they've never been taught or shown what success was out of a certain paradigm, and they don't think that that is achievable for them. And within our communities, we need to learn how to define our own level of success and what that means to us and ride that energy and realize that we can be successful.
Yes. Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah, so that's really how you, to me, that's how you begin to build your tribe, because it starts with you. It starts with the energy that you're putting out. It starts with your mindset. It starts what you're feeding yourself. What thoughts and energies are you feeding yourself, about your skill? Remember one of the first things I told you, you was like, I'm trying. I was like, no, you're doing.
Yeah.
You know, you said, I want to be a master networker. I said, you already are. Mindset.
Yes. And changing your language and
Changing
your
your
behavior.
and your behavior, and making sure you sit down and you really put that into your spirit. It doesn't happen overnight just because you say a couple of words. You got to really pray on it, meditate on it, embody it,
Yeah.
visualize it. You see all the positive affirmations, and make those affirmations. You don't have to copy those affirmations from the internet or from, make your own. I am a master networker. I am a master, business consultant. I am a master organizer. I am a master business coach. And embody that. You know, say it to yourself every day. Look in the mirror. Employ all the techniques. Sit down every night, 10 minutes before you go to bed. Say it over and over and over till you see it, then go to sleep and dream about it. You got to start changing, like I said, what you speak and what you think, because that's what you're feeding yourself. And then that's the energy you're going to carry.
Yeah.
And that's what you're going to give out to the universe. And that's what you're going to receive back.
Yes. We are talking about getting out of your own way, guys, and this is such a great conversation. So in a sea of in a populated sea with a lot of fish, because you think about the sea, there's a lot of fish that are the same fish. You do have fish that are different fish, but in a sea of a lot of people that are doing the same thing, how do you separate yourself? How do you stand out and make people see who you are, apart from these people over here that might be offering the same things or doing the same things that you're doing?
Hmm. Well, everybody's doing the same thing. Everybody's got, a coaching package. Oh, I can teach you how to be the best coach. Okay. I can teach you how to be the best consultant. Okay. Because I've been doing it for years, but they're not really doing it. They're just teaching you how to do it. Everything is easy access platform. How can I make money off of this? What differentiates me from others is my sincere passion and desire to see growth for every single person that I touch. That comes out in the first conversation with me. I make that known, I make that felt. Okay. Within our community, we don't feel that people really have our best interests at heart. And it's a sad mindset to have. And I've always been a nurturer, I've always been a caregiver. So I put that into my business. I put that energy into, I'm going to help you if you're willing to help yourself. I'm going to help you awaken something that is within you that's going to really empower you to do the things that you need to do, no matter what it is. Even if you change your mind about it because you realize that you should go in this direction as opposed to this direction. And that's really what separates me. It's hands on, it's one to one, it's very confidential. We dig not only into what it is that you want to do for your business, but I also dig into who you are as a person. Because if you are not functioning at your peak capacity, how are you going to be able to run this business if you can't run your life? Most coaches and most business mentors, most consultants only focus on the product or the service. I take it from a very holistic approach and I look at the whole entire package, because somebody is going to be at the helm and the foundation of running this business, of producing this product or service, and what that looks like. And if they are not right, their business is not right. So what separates me and what puts me above the rest is because I really do look at and take a holistic approach to not only the business, but the person behind the business. And I don't see a lot of people doing that at all.
That is good. So let's move on to this. You are a multipreneur, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. You have multiple businesses. First question, this is like an ABC question. First question, how do you sustain them? Because you have to have find time to divvy up between the businesses. And also, what would you say to people? Because I've had this said to me more than once. What do you say to people who say to you, well, you can't have your hand in so many things. You need to focus on one thing at a time.
So I'll answer the first one, the second question first. I say they are right and wrong.
Hmm.
They are right because if you don't focus on one thing enough to get it where it is self sustaining to be able to start something else, you're going to be spread thin. But they
Okay.
are wrong because once you start something and you get it to that level where it can do what it needs to do so that you can move on to something else and still have that, then what's the problem? I started mapping out everything that I wanted to do. I started putting myself out there, research and development, strategizing what would go first, what would go second, what would go third. First business started in 2015. Second business started in 2015. But the first business that started in 2015, we had did all the due diligence. We had did everything that needed to happen so that when it did launch and we were able to sustain it, we had a rhythm and a groove that worked. That also then allowed me to focus on my next business. And then once I got that where it needed to be, and I had a rhythm and a groove with the first one and the second one, then I went to the third one. Now I've learned with my children, my sisters, everything that I do in terms of my life, my friends, my businesses, I've learned how to incorporate all of them. Three very different businesses on a very different time schedule in terms of things. So it was again my organizational expertise. But yes, I had to focus on one before I could move to the next. And I had to make sure that while I was working on the next, I could still focus on the first. And then once I got that down pat, then I was able to pull in the third. So no, I did not do them all at the same time because there is no way that I could have. I was already doing a lot of other things at the same time, taking care of my mom, going to work full time, taking care of three children, going to school. But my life is like a puzzle. Not everybody thinks and functions like this, but I implore people to play with puzzles, especially the shape shifting ones. You know, Tetris was my jam. It got my mind going. Anything that required how does this fit? Where does this go? Strategy. I live in a world of puzzles in my head with my life. If I do this, how is it going to fit here? It's not going to go here. We're going to meet an impasse. That's not going to work. So it's like little file cabinets and puzzle pieces in my head where I strategically take things out and place them until it flows and the puzzle is complete. So you have to learn how to do that if you're going to be a multipreneur, if you're going to have multiple businesses. But even with that, you have to build the foundation of one first, and then you have to make sure that it is able to sustain and flow before you can move on to the next. Because if you don't have that set right, then as soon as you move on to the next, and you may have to turn your back on this one for a minute, it is going to fall apart.
Yeah.
It's a yes and it's a no. Yeah, you absolutely need to focus on what you have in front of you. And once you get that to where it needs to be, then you can move on to the next. Because you've got processes and systems in place that are either automated and or handed off to someone else who now you trust enough to be able to execute on your behalf so that you can focus on a different task here. It's no different than what you're doing at work. You have a bunch of tasks that you need to do. You ask your boss, which one is the priority? Because you know you can't touch all of them at the same time. So
Mhm.
you strategize. I have to get all of this done. The deadline for this is Monday, the deadline for this is Wednesday, the deadline for this is Friday and Friday. But which one on that Friday is more important than the next? So you begin to structure your time.
Yeah.
And because you start looking at what is the process that I need? Who do I need to contact? Even though you have a project due on Friday, you may need to contact somebody on Monday and say, I need XYZ by Wednesday so that I complete this by Friday. While you're working on your Monday deliverables and making sure that's complete to be able to get out. It's organization. It's being strategic about how you function and you move.
Yes.
And it's the ability to say, I need help and ask for it when there are competing priorities that just have to get done. I don't know what's going on in people's lives. They may have the business that's going, and another thing comes up that's like too good to be true, but it really is an opportunity of a lifetime. What do I do? Sit back and structure yourself, organize yourself, be realistic about the time and energy that you can put into each project, and then tell the other person or people, I can or I cannot, or I cannot at this time, but if you can hold on, we can pick this up at this time. And then you focus on what you have, make sure you hit that mark and that deadline, make sure you get it up functioning where you need it to be so that you can move on to the next thing, but still have that other thing in place. So
Guys, this is some great information here. This is such a great discussion. I can go hours and hours on talking about this. But we've been talking about getting out of your own way. And my final question for you, Rashida, is uh, give some final tips or some final advice to business owners and professionals on how to go about getting out of their own way. What are the, I don't know, the top three things that they need to do to start moving towards that goal.
I would say the first thing is your personal development. Live and stay in personal development. Understand that you're the driving force and the one constant. Everything else are variables. You're the constant within the equation that is your life and within the equation that is your business. And if you want to move your business forward, you have to really be able to look at yourself and how you're thinking and how you're functioning. So you always need to be in personal development mode. Second, if you're getting a lot of people telling you you can't do it, you shouldn't do it, go back, look at your processes, look at it, what it is that you're doing. Professional development. Make sure you know what you know. Make sure nobody can't tell you that you didn't put your 10,000 hours in. Do the work. Tell yourself that you are an expert at what it is that you do and make yourself that expert. Function in that energy space. And three, just never, ever, 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 ever give up. I don't care how bad it gets. I don't care how many boulders are put on your path. Figure out a way to get around that boulder. Figure out a way to pivot. And that will come if you're consistently working on your mindset around life and your mindset around you, your personal development, and your professional development. So those are my three tips. I don't care who you are. If you look at some of the top business owners, CEOs, they are all about personal development. They're all about professional development. They are always stretching themselves. They're always pushing themselves because they understand that they have to be the best person they can be. They have to be the best about their business that they can be. They need to tap into other things and other people and other levels of expertise that is going to help drive and push them to the next level. So if you're serious about getting out of your own way, then get out of your own way. Develop yourself. If you need to do it with spiritual means, by all means. If it's education, go for it. But figure out what that personal development looks like to you and get it done, and make sure that you're an expert at what you're doing. You're an expert at making soap. You're an expert at tying shoes. I don't care what it is. And if somebody tells you what makes you think that because you put the work in, it's a confidence piece. It'll begin to show, it will begin to shape, but you got to work at it.
Yeah, those are three great tips. Those are amazing. Thank you so much, Rashida, for coming to the network hour and sharing those, dropping those gems. I mean, it's amazing. So tell our listeners how they can get in touch with you if they want to work with you. How do they get in touch with you?
You can reach out to me via website www.empower great great.com. You can also email me at empowered empowered great at gmail.com. I am also on Instagram at Empower Great and Facebook at Empower Great. So
Yes, and I will put all of this information for our listeners in the podcast notes as well. So just look out for that. And you can definitely contact Rashida if you need coaching, consulting, all of that good stuff. Before I end today, I want to leave you guys with a quote. I always give you a quote for the day. And here I am with another one. The quote is: "The richest people in the world look for and build networks. Everyone else looks for work." Let that sink in a little bit. And then it goes on to say, "And if you want to go somewhere, it is best to find someone who has already been there." And this quote is by Robert T. Kiyosaki. And this is so timely for what we've been talking about and what we've been discussing today. I hope you guys have a great weekend. Hope you have a great time. This has been another hour of the Network Hour podcast, and I look forward to talking to you guys again in the next episode. See you later.
thanks, Molly.
Thanks, Rashida.